Allow me to introduce myself. I am Tinashe Mujera. I'm an author, I'm a marketplace professional, and I'm a woman of God. I am a representation of tested faith. I represent my healed wounds that left ugly scars. This is the Faith in Action podcast that has been created to help you find the journey to your true self through conversations and lessons shared. Good evening, good day, good morning, depending on which part of the world you are listening to us or watching us from. My name is Tina Mujera, and I'm your host of the Faith in Action podcast. We meet again for yet another exciting episode. I am really wowed by what God is doing in this season, honestly speaking. Yesterday I was coming from a very humbling event, and I was just sharing about how God is raising soldiers really for, or an army for a harvest that is about to dawn on us. I'm really excited about what he's doing and how he's aligning his own, to his purpose and to that which he wants accomplished in the season. I'm excited today again because I am joined by yet another amazing guest speaker who is going to be speaking to us about redefining masculinity. I think a topic that is rarely spoken about. I feel like there's so much emphasis that has gone on, or that is really, put on women and girls, and us having so many of these conferences and meetings about women gathering and, sharing, which is not bad if it's done for the right intent and with the right purpose. But there's a lack in terms of what we are sharing and how we are gathering the other side, which is the men, the young boys, who is mentoring them and who's speaking to them. And I'm excited that in this month of men's mental health month, we have male guest speakers that are really coming to share with us. Excited again. I am joined today by the one and only Andile Mekeni, very humble man that I really respect with all my heart. He is an inspiring leader. He is a franchise owner at 30, guys. I'm surrounded, and I'm really excited that he's honored us with his time to come and share his wisdom and his truth, really, on the Faith in Action podcast. With that said, please help me to welcome Andile Mekeni to the Faith in Action podcast.
Hello. How are you?
Drum roll. Welcome, Andile. Hi.
Hey, how are you, Titi?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good.
Sir?
Fantastic. In this cold weather in Johannesburg, just pushing
You.
through.
I'm telling you, it is freezing. It is freezing,
Yeah,
hey?
no, it is. It is.
And I hope you're keeping warm and the family is warm, because, geez, the swine flu is not playing games with us. I can see that. Andile, without
Yes.
wasting time, please give us an introduction about who you are and your core. Maybe just 3 words that describe you. I know I've got one, and you mustn't miss that one. But just tell us about yourself, who you are, what you represent. Maybe just 3 words that describe you.
Well, for me, what I believe describes me, my essence as a man, is to inspire, to mentor, and to live in my truth.
Mm, 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 mm. I love that. Inspire, to mentor, and to live in your truth. And that's exactly who you are, actually. And I'm really honored to have worked with you and to have actually met you, because from the very moment I met you, I knew that, there was so much wisdom in this, young man, yet so humble, but carrying so much wisdom and grace. And really, we excited to have you on the Faith in Action podcast. And we thank you for honoring us with your time. I know you're a busy man and there's so much to be done in your space, but you have given us your time to share. Geez, where do we begin with redefining masculinity? What is masculinity, Andile? What's going on in the world with this? We speak so much, I was saying this, we speak so much about women and less about men, less about young men and boys. We raising women and we're having so many conferences and gatherings about women must do this and that and we're equipping ourselves in a good way, yes, if it's done with the right intent, but we are lacking this other side. And I was saying this to other people also yesterday. Where are the men? What is going on in this world? Because there ought to be a balance.
Yeah. It's very interesting that you say that, because I think one of my mentees had an event, not an event, rather a graduation celebration. And I happen to be invited, and I get invited by most of my young people that I've mentored over the years to come and witness that graduation, a year of celebration. And I get into this event, and I think it was at Verts, and I looked around, and I kid you not, I saw 90% of the people that are graduating were women. And I asked myself the same question, that where are men in such an important time where men need to stand up academically and try to prove themselves, and this puzzled me. And good that you asked this question, because it bothers me too. And I reflected in this, and I said, our modern day society has given so much power into what toxic masculinity is, and less strength to what positive masculinity is. Now, in a world where men feel maligned and denigrated, that is a society that I don't want to be part of, because that society itself is toxic. Because where do men feel that they are seen, valued, that masculinity is strong? There were times where masculinity was never questioned. That when a man climbed a ladder to go save a child from burning, that was not questioned. When a man did his duty to society as a teacher, as a doctor, masculinity was not questioned. And all we need to focus on is to, when we move to say, how can we embrace man in positive masculinity? Because that also is what I think we should put the power in.
Totally. Jeez, that's deep, Andile. That's deep. There's been so much emphasis on the negativity of masculinity and less emphasis on positive masculinity. Jeez.
There you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I'm just agreeing with you. So it's like I'm raising a son, and I want him to be able to have the attributes that a strong woman wants. Your daughter will want to be in an environment where she feels protected by a man that is comfortable in his own skin, who does not fear being vulnerable, who does not fear being himself, who also understands that his masculinity gene is to protect the woman. And how do we then raise men if we malign them?
Sure. How do we then raise men if we malign them?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already hot here. I mean, we've just began, but I'm feeling the heat. Like, Andile, this is deep. And I don't want us to lose this train of thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you.
Geez. I mean, there's this aspect of vulnerability, that you're bringing into this positive masculinity aspect. And I just want to ask you, where that balance, where we find that balance. I mean, I look at you. It's easy. People can't take advantage of you. You are very strong. It's so gentle. And for me, that's, I guess, a representation of that vulnerability, but yet still resembling positive masculinity. How do we get there? Because it's not there. I don't find it in many. It's as if something has been taken off, or there's a mask that's covering men or even women, because we also don't even know how to interpret it or see it. Where do we find that balance?
Well, the first thing is that we should understand that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of courage.
Mm.
Is that a man that is vulnerable has courage, is brave to be vulnerable,
Sure.
and strength and vulnerability are actually complementary, because those attributes itself don't mean you are weak as a man.
Mm.
They mean you are
Mm.
a man that has intelligence to
Mm.
navigate your emotions and project them in a way that is positive in
Wow.
masculinity. So
Mm.
it's like, don't convince yourself that when you are when you're vulnerable, you're weak. When you're vulnerable, you actually have more access to gaining more strength because you acknowledge your weaknesses.
Mm.
But if you're always trying to be strong and you don't explore your vulnerabilities, you never gain strength or the
Mm.
momentum to cultivate yourself further.
Mm. 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 Shoo.
You know,
Shoo. Vulnerability is strength. It's not a weakness, because that
absolutely.
shows that you are able to understand your emotions. Actually, that's like emotional intelligence to an extent, and that is an attribute or part of what positive masculinity should
Yes.
represent. Goodness.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let me breathe. This is a lot, Andile. I want you to please take us through your own personal journey. How did you become? Where where did you come from? What happened? How was that journey? And and tell us where you are now.
It's a very interesting journey, Tinashe, because I don't think that by social norms I should be even having this conversation with you.
Mm.
Um, I'm coming from a small village in the Eastern Cape, called Mbeta in Ngamakwe, and we don't make it there. We don't. We become nothing when we are from there. And for me, I had to go through a journey of loss. I never had the opportunity to have a father. He was alive, but unfortunately, we know that our fathers have let us down, and for a very long
Mm.
time now.
Mm.
And I never had an opportunity to have a mom. She died when I was very young,
Sure.
and throughout my upbringing, I struggled with finances. So I come from a position of destitute and lack,
Mm.
and eventually the person that raised me, who's my grandmother, um, passed away in 2011, and eventually my son, which was my firstborn son, passed away about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at life and you ask yourself
Mm.
this question: is that like the story of Job in the Bible, and the story of Job is Job was favored by God,
Yeah.
and when he bragged about him, his son, the devil, came and said, "No, Job is only in this position because he's protected by you and is privileged. And if
Sure.
he did not have the privilege that you've sheltered him with, he would not be faithful to you."
Mm.
And God said, and the devil dared God to take all from Job,
Sure.
and God did. And so he lost everything,
Sure.
and he lost his friend. His
Sure.
father told him to shake his hand at God and die, and he
Sure.
rejected that from his own wife,
Mm.
and he remained to have faith.
Mm.
So my story and strength does not come from only good times. It comes from loss. It comes from the pain not having, of lack. And I saw that you cannot allow your periods of darkness to consume who you are.
Mm.
If you have a bigger calling and you're
Mm.
favored by God, the pain itself is only a direction to your bigger calling.
Mm.
That if you waver in destruction and pain, and that when everything goes wrong, And when you lose all that you love, you lose your faith. It was never true to begin with. That the only time when you know that you're true to your faith is when you go through all that is necessary and still
Sure,
remain in faith and in God.
sure, 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 Andile. That's deep. That's deep. Your pain is a direction to your purpose and to your core. If the only time that you perceive God as God is when you have it all, then it was never a true calling to begin with. My goodness.
Absolutely.
That hit home. That's deep. That jeez.
Absolutely.
So in these humble beginnings and you sharing all this loss, this lack, this poverty, people that were taking care of your mom passed on at a young age. You were young. Your grandmother who then remained taking care of you also then passed on. How old were you? How did you then manage? Like who mentored you, Andile? Because I'm trying to reconcile this man that I see today and this that you're saying.
Yeah. So I, the first person that mentored me was my grandmother, and she had this carte blanche approach where she never she always left it to me to make the right decision. Said, you have what it takes to be who you think you are. You have what it takes to find out what your flaws are and fix them. You have what it takes to that when you're weak, you find ways to find your strength. So that was my grandmother. And
Wow.
that woman was a profound contribution,
Mhm.
a profound figure to the man that I am today, because she
Sure.
anchored me to responsibility. Okay. And it's just that's just the beginning of my life. And I'll let you know as I progress who became a part of my life and who formed the man that I am.
Mm,
So when so that's what the attributes that my grandmother almost about say polished, right? Because and if I could touch on this topic, when Atiti is that, and in the modern day parenting, when women shelter their kids and parents shelter their kids, and they don't want them to take the risk, they hinder them from growth that is inevitable. That your
mm,
children aren't born for you; they're born for the world. And if you don't
mm,
let them burn, they never get the wisdom of or if you need to let your kids be curious. They must have
sure.
the curious intelligence to make mistakes. Do not
Mm,
shield them because of the fear of your own mistakes.
mm,
And let them not touch the fire. Let them know how it feels to burn first.
mm.
And if you helicopter them, you're protecting them from the inevitable of this world, where the world
Yeah,
is surrounded by fire and
yeah,
evil and
sure,
malevolence. And if you
sure.
don't say to them, hey, if you don't learn this lesson in life, you're going to find that it's waiting for you. So my
Sure.
grandmother allowed me to still life when I was still a young age. I cooked, I ironed with the steel iron. When the other kids at school were carrying school bags, I had a textbook rice bag for my books. When and my grandmother never shielded what that pain was for me, and that gave me the strength. And
Wow.
let's fast forward to when I was 18, just after I lost my grandmother. Few months later, I had the opportunity to meet this profound, I think, this man. And for the
Mm,
first time in my life, I had this incredible human being who happens to be a male.
mm.
And his name is Brian Altridge.
Wow.
He happens to be the founder of RocoMamas,
Mm,
the big brand of
mm,
RocoMamas. And he
mm.
mentored me from the age of 18.
Sure.
And now, for the first time, as I mature as a man, I have a role to emulate, something to look at as a masculine energy in action.
Mm,
And I look at myself and I started to, kind of like do what he does and
sure.
look up to. That's what a mentor is supposed to be. A mentor is not copy and do as they do, it's look at what good they do and not lose your own identity and your authenticity in the process. And
Sure.
while you inculcate the values that make him work as a man, as a mentor. So that's what I did. And and it worked out pretty well for me, because if it wasn't for that man, I wouldn't be even half the man that I am. And funny
Hmm.
enough, I said, and sorry if I prattle along, and I just want
No,
to highlight
please,
this. And I said,
please.
and I said this, and this surprised someone. And I said, I've lost my mom, I've lost my dad, I've lost my grandmother, I've lost my son,
Hmm.
but I would never trade any of them for that man. That one stranger that was put in my path, for all the losses that I've lost, I wouldn't trade that mentorship. I wouldn't trade that figure, because that was when my transformation began. That is
Wow.
how integral, and that is how imperative it is for young men to have mentoring figures. That's it.
Sure. Sure, Andile. The, thank you for sharing that part of your story and your journey as well. And you know, and I see that balance coming through as you speak. That indeed individuals need both the female aspect and the male aspect in building them to become. And,
Yeah, yeah,
you speak about for the first time, I had a male figure to emulate, with
yeah,
so much enthusiasm. And I can feel, that balance come through even as you're speaking it. And it's amazing to hear, because you also speak then about you dive into a little bit of what mentorship is, and you say that mentorship is not taking who they are to become you, but taking those aspects that have made them into
yeah,
your own true authenticity and essence, and becoming
yeah.
yourself still, but emulating from them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, Andile, Brian Outreach is a white man.
Yeah,
You are black.
yeah.
You met this man at 18, and you talk about him just becoming then your mentor, and you have a male figure. How,
Yeah.
Njani? Because we are black. Where did what happened?
So obviously, coming from a small village from Eastern Cape, you get into this big city, and I've never stayed in a big city. I'm a village boy. Don't think, get me correct. I might be acting twanging, but hey, I'm a village boy. And and I came in 2012, and I happened to be left to my brother and I were left to fend for ourselves. And because life was tough, man, and we needed to go out there and hustle.
Mm,
And we looked for jobs, man. And when the rainy days, when we did not have those transport, we didn't have transport money, my brother and I were working hand in hand, looking for employment. And one day, it just happens that I gave up. I just stopped looking. And I remember sitting in a park hungry, and and I said, to eventually, it went deep to go to like to pubs, to go look for like one cut go do bottles to go sell, so we can have some food, because it was tough, it was that tough. And
mm,
but I'd given up. And one day, we're in my aunt's house, my brother calls and says, hey, they're taking us. There's an opportunity at a Spur in Carlton Center Spur in CBD, and yeah, please, let's go.
sure.
And I went there, and for the first time, I met Brian, and he
Wow.
owned a Spur in Carlton Center.
Sure.
And by the way, just to let you know, I own that store now. I own that Spur now, and with Brian, you know.
Sure.
And and the first time he met me, I kid you not, he said to me, he was in a class telling about his story, and he looked at me directly, and he pointed at me and said, you, young man, are a tiger. I'm like, what is this old white man talking about? I'm a tiger. I mean, I'm hungry, and and all of a sudden I realized that this was an opportunity. I was seen for the first time. The
Wow.
first time I've ever been seen was when he saw me. Not for the first time, no, but I've been seen. I had a teacher in my school that saw me at a very young
Mm,
age, and she actually helped me refine my attributes. Miss Ndai, who was a scout, she introduced scouting. And so if I'm going back and forth, and she
That's
introduced scouting in my school then. And
mm,
that woman saw potential in me. And if you go in line and you research my story, she also played a fundamental role into seeing me into my
mm,
existence.
mm,
And yeah, and then I met that and I started working for Brian. And from there, when I started working for him, he always kept in touch because he's a man of his word. And when he saw the tiger in me, he really stood by that, and he mentored that tiger and to something greater than what he saw.
mm,
Just because he saw me before I could see myself.
mm,
And you need people that see you when you're not quite sure about the potential you might have. And the people that have lived life through experience, they take a moment to say, I see you. That's all that it takes. Imagine how
mm,
many young men need a word of encouragement. How many
mm,
young men need men to see them, and
mm,
mentors to see them, a village to
mm,
see them, a community to
mm,
see them, a
mm,
woman to see them.
mm.
You know, it's like it takes that for someone to just see you.
That's
And
right.
then because of that, there's that ripple effect that I now see people.
Wow.
My leadership is not by default.
Sure.
It is a foundation of good leadership and mentorship, that you
Mm,
see people, you
mm,
know.
mm, mm, mm. Andile, this is deep. You touch on so many things and you bring so many things to light, but sharing your own journey. And I'm inspired. I really just want to applaud you for what you've done for yourself at such a young age and the wisdom that you carry. Listen, you're talking about mentorship, and I know that you have this group of men that you mentor, you meet. I think it's every Tuesday of the
Yeah,
second Tuesday of
yeah,
every
yeah,
month.
yeah, yeah.
Um, if you could just unpack that for us and tell us what that means, what the core values are, why are you doing that, and why it's important for young men to find real mentors and, for spaces like those to exist in order for us to raise men.
I think there's conversations that have been kept in silence. And I'll
Mm,
explain this to you. The privilege that I've had in this business. I've interviewed young men and young women, and I'm
mm,
mostly focused on hiring the youth,
mm,
and between the ages of 18 to 23. And I believe that's the right age for a restaurant industry, because if you want people to step on something, let it be a restaurant game to step on, so that they get into better means. I don't believe in loyalty. I don't believe that people should be loyal to you as an individual. I believe
wow.
you should allow people to use you to get to their dream, because we want those people to come back as a customer. And loyalty is self-centered. It's about leaders that want people to stay and loyal to them. I don't believe in that. I believe that people should grow out and make the best out of this environment so that they have become better people. And
Sure.
if you're not doing this, if you're not in this game for that, I don't know what you're in this game for. And
Sure.
that might be controversial, because people want level people. You have people that are there to stay, so you grow. You have people that you hire, so they grow out. So make sure the number that grows out is higher than the number that stays,
Sure.
if you want. So, and when I sit in these meetings with young men, and I realize that the fragmentation in the black household that has been avoided is that when the fathers leave, and we also talk about fathers not being present quite often,
Mm,
but we don't highlight the damage of the present mother, who is present but is also a devouring mother. And when I
wow.
have this conversation about this devouring mother, it is that mother that seeks fulfillment from their own kids, and has convinced herself that her identity is not inseparable from their kids, therefore controls their kids than embrace them to be who they want to be. Some people might even call that black tax.
Sure.
So when I'm in these environments with young kids, the first
Yeah.
thing is that I teach them to take care of themselves. And how I do that, and what do I mean by take care of yourself? I'm like, there's a good type of selfish that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot love when
Mm,
you feel fueled with hatred from within.
mm,
So I teach them to love themselves first, because
wow.
And if you want a man to be strong, you want a man to be self-aware.
Yes.
And you want a man that values himself. You want a
Totally.
man that has a passion. You want a man
Yes.
that has a purpose. You want a
Yes.
man that wants to feed to the society,
Yes.
then take. The
True.
weak men take, they abuse. And
Hmm.
when we in these meetings, we want to embrace that masculinity and the masculine energy as strong men who protect and provide for our families. And
Hmm.
that is so integral for our society that men feel this way. So we highlight those things, that there's people in our businesses come broken, they've got no hope, they've got no mentorship, they've got no direction. The least that we could do as leaders is to only water the seed that is surrounded by weeds.
My goodness. Hmm.
And all that it takes to do that is to give all that it takes to those in your charge, because leadership is about serving those in your charge. We're in service of our people.
Hmm.
And those young men, you should see in their eyes when they see value, they
Wow.
feel valued, they feel
Hmm.
loved, they feel cared for, they thrive, and they
Hmm.
want to leave to do better.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what my meetings are about. When I tell
Wow.
I say, people always want to grow their businesses, and they said, how? No, you must teach people, and you must train them, and you must show them the way on how to do. I said, well, before you can do that, you cannot add value to people that you don't value.
Ooh.
So to add value to people, you must first value them genuinely and care for them and love for them. That is masculinity being vulnerable.
That's right.
And when
Sure.
you value the people genuinely, and they will value your business, and hence they will grow it further. So
Hmm.
it's like when I sit with this young man, that's what comes out of that. It's only fruitful.
Hmm. Hmm.
Thank you.
Hmm. Yo, hi man, Andile. Where, which seed? Where are you from? Which planet do you come from? Because man, this is too deep. I'm loving this conversation, and I'm loving the nuggets that you're bringing in. I'm mind blown. I actually need to go back and question myself, especially regarding this issue of loyalty.
Yeah.
Angela, this is deep. I mean, this is leadership on another level. I've never thought about it this way. I always thought that people need to be loyal to me. So why are you not loyal to me? I mean, this is so deep that it even goes back to, the issue of, it touches on personal development too, because there's this fine line where, we oftentimes we feel like um, people owe us people owe us certain things. I mean, I'm an orphan, for example. I will just share a snippet of when I was growing. I thought that the world owed me empathy, and people must just be kind and nice to me because now I'm an orphan and all of those things. Until I got a revelation that nobody owes you nothing. They're all on their own journey pursuing what they need to pursue. You need to find you, girl, and you need to get your act together like quick. So, I mean, this also aspect of loyalty, I think, just speaks into that. Nobody actually needs to be loyal to you. And why do you
No.
want them to be? They need to go and flourish. My goodness.
So, and it's not only that no, also not only that when I understand is that no one owes you anything, but also that no one is going to save you. I think most people wait for an opportunity from an individual or from a corporation or from from where they are because they're waiting for someone to save them.
Hmm.
And I realized that, and I realized with this young people also as well, that no one is going to save you. And I've met a lot of people that their identities are what they do, who are
Yeah,
in big positions, that they have not truly found their identity without their position, that they start identifying themselves with what they do. That is not who you are.
totally.
Who you are is what you are, is what you're in pursuit of. That's something that is bigger than you.
Sure.
That
Sure.
calling that is haunting you when you're sleeping at night that takes no break, that is you. And sometimes we drift into the ideas of positions and power that we forget what calling is, or what purpose is, and what we're here for in this world.
That is so true, Andile. My goodness. And you speak about this devouring mother, my who I've never heard about that. Like we oftentimes women think they're the victims, it's always women are abused, but I've grown to know now is that actually in the past few months I've been meeting a lot of men that have gone through a lot of abuse, to be honest. Now I actually had never seen it from the other side. I always thought that
Yeah.
we were the victims. And it's amazing to hear this aspect of the devouring mother, because I feel like it ties into that. But also, this aspect of this man that is going through the most and actually doesn't have anywhere else to go and vent or share, because already there's the stigma around,
Yes.
it's man, it doesn't matter. Andile, I want you to please share with us also on especially the African child, the African man. You were talking about communities earlier on when we had a brief chat. And I want you to just please unpack that in terms of, the fatherhood aspect and that male figure that is needed and what is happening in society. And, how do we come back to this place where we want men really to rise up?
For a good question, Tanasha, and it's like it's a very deep and potentially contentious response, because I feel like it's a topic that people don't want to have. The one thing, if you want to kill a society or a community, if you want to kill a community, take the father away from the home. And if we remember during the apartheid era that we were deprived of certain resources or opportunities, but we never lacked alcohol. Even it came by Chimbuku, even if it cost like 5 rand or 1 rand, it was available in the community. And why was that so important for that conditioning of the apartheid government? Was that if you want to dismantle man or the society and desecrate the value of a father, make them drunk, because a person that is drunk or not sober, well, they don't think. If man unthinking, man uncreating. If man unthinking, man unprotecting. If men are not sober, they're unteaching their young boys. If men unsober, they're aggressive. And that aggression is what you call toxic masculinity. And that is the toxic, and again, we'll dive in deep in this toxicity of what one that is coming from alcohol. So what I say to men, I say, well, get rid of the fog. What is the fog? The fog is the destruction of our community.
Yeah.
The fog is the things, it is the lies we see on social media that are only distracting us to think. The pretentiousness and fictitious of Instagram, where we're in pursuit of voluptuous women that don't add value to raising a strong child. The clubbing where you have Puza Monday, Mkhodu Monday, and Thursday is another day, weekend, and some guys have touched on this topic where we never have. Why do we have such distractions? So that we don't think. Because a society that does not think becomes weak. A society that doesn't think keeps really electing the same leaders that have abused the power and dismantled the whole country, because men are not asking the right questions. Why would they when they are drunk and they are being entertained? When they're being entertained. Well, where are the values? And I had a conversation with my wife about this, because, that's one of the person that, amazing that I didn't talk about my wife, but that chick.
You would have 10 times by now.
Yeah, like, there's no me without that one, And also, we have this conversation with my wife about this culture, and I said, culture is good and it is bad in one way and good in one way. It has the potential. Culture has a potential to kill a community, because if if its aim is to blind people, and if people's views are that lack foresight because of culture, then they don't get the opportunity to think outside the box of culture.
Sure.
But also in our culture, as Xhosas, we're supposed to go in those small huts and sit around Urondal. And when we go to the mountain, we are taught these lessons on how to be man in the society. And I've went through that experience, and that experience has been diluted to nothingness because you don't get to be set and be taught and be shown and to be taught on how to be a man. That
That's true.
process has died. Now,
Yeah.
even when men go to the mountain, they don't come as better men. They come as men who want to denigrate women because I daughter, community, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And that is why when we need to embrace culture, but for the right reasons, and we need to
Mm.
start focusing on young boys and use those opportunities of umeluko nentaba as
Mm.
i-route yobuyisela amadoda emadodeni.
That's right. Sure. That's right. Sure. Yo, Andile Mekeni, yes, sis. You remind me of Vusi Tembekwayo once again. I don't know why, but wherever you are going, there's this big thing. And I know you're gonna be like, when I'm not Vusi, I'm Andile. But there's just this thing about you that is deep, sir. And we really just appreciate people like you in society. Now I want to go back to there's a lot of we unpacked, that is just I want to go back to your core and just that true essence, that one thing that centers you, that anchors you. We might be having young men right now that are listening, even women that are raising boys, and they're like, "Yo, I'm enjoying and I'm loving what I'm hearing right now," but what anchors this man? Where does he get this that he speaks on? And I know you spoke about your mentor, but what is it about you? Because there are a lot of people that have been exposed to mentors, Andile, but took nothing out of it. And I think it always goes back to the individual. And for me, it's this individual that we have here today. What is that? What is that one thing or those things that anchor you, that make you?
I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah,
Am,
you are.
am I clear?
Yeah, very.
Well, well, I think what makes me me, first of all, I'm always in pursuit of things that are bigger than me, and I think the first thing that I realized when I was still coming of age is that even when you are a mentor, you even mentorship expires if you are stagnant yourself. So the greatest thing that you can ever do as a person that wants to give more than you can to people is to constantly self-refine. You need to constantly cultivate yourself and improve, because also you cannot be in one place, because to give to other people more than you can is to reach within yourself and work inside, refining you as a leader, or else you become a broken record and repeating the same thing. So what is in me is like, my biggest purpose is to help people find their own purpose. And I can only do that if I continue to refine myself
Cheapers, we've lost Andile a bit there. Um, I see there's a question from Irene while Andile joins us again, where she asks and she says, I'm still wondering about my calling as a human being in general. Is there others who don't have a core because some of us are blank? And she's listening all the way from Nottingham in England. Absolutely great question, Irene. I mean, this is part of the work that I do as a coach as well, when I do coach individuals. And I get a lot of people that ask about purpose and their call, because people are confused, right? It's difficult. Well, not really, but it is. I think my short answer, while we wait for Andile to come back and he'll probably just add on to this answer, is, as he rightfully said, that purpose and core is that one thing that is bigger than you as an individual. It's that which makes you. So while you are here on earth, God has prepared you for something. I was saying yesterday, I got an epiphany moment while I was at an interview, at a TV interview, where I just realized that the only reason that we have been put on earth is to be in a battlefield. It's almost like a battle of faith and fear. It's almost a battle of discipleship and spectatorship. It's a battle of the flesh and of the spirit. Now, God Himself says that He is the vine, we are the branches, meaning that each and every one of us has a certain aspect, that we need to fulfill in order to come into this one union or this one bigger core. That is the core. That is your purpose. That's which you need to fulfill as an individual, as that branch that comes in to feed into the bigger picture. And it goes back to, why did God create you? Why? I always say, when I'm asked who I am, and I talk about this a lot because I also love for people to discover who they are, is I shy away from the titles, just as Andile was sharing with us now. And I talk about how I am a natural born, authentic leader who's passionate about women and young girls and is called forth to transform lives through how I inspire in my leadership. And that is my true core, regardless. So I think that's basically what I would give in a nutshell, Irene. Obviously, Andile is going to join us and he will speak more into this. I think he's back now. Is he back? Is he back? There we go.
I'm back.
Awesome.
You missed me, I know.
I know. I did. I was like, what's going on now? Why is the enemy playing on us?
I can kid you, it's not load shedding. It's not like it's not back yet.
It's not back yet. I love that. Andile, you were busy, just unpacking and answering. But while you were there's someone that just asked a question about a calling and purpose. And I know you touched on it a bit. They're saying, how do we find this calling and this purpose? Because I don't even know what my call and purpose is.
So, very interesting question. I think for me, a calling, everyone has a purpose. And I think for me, what I have differentiated is saying that I can be in business and my purpose is to succeed in business. And my purpose in business is to be excellent in doing business. But a calling is something that has got nothing to do with you. It's something beyond you as a human being. It's something that is God-given, that through whatever you go through, you need to come back and go and go and listen to your calling and live according to your calling. And sometimes I look at these profound figures in our society and musicians that are now in jail. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention their names here, but but you look at I'll make an example like a Kanye West. Kanye West is a profound figure and is a different side on the spectrum in terms of talent. And sometimes because he thinks is bigger than his calling, he then touches in parts that move people wrong. And he doesn't use his craft and art to inspire because he thinks now it's no longer about the craft and art. It's about me. A calling is something that is beyond you, while a purpose is something that you might achieve or might obtain to step on to get to your calling.
Wow.
So that's how I define. So that's it. That's what I think I could give best to that answer. And
Awesome.
how you find that calling is you take time to yourself and ask yourself things that you know you should be doing right. that you're not doing right, things you know that bring you misery when you are not doing them. And those are the things that tick, that make you tick,
Yeah.
that give you fuel and energy. That for
Mm,
me is what I believe your identified purpose.
sure. Awesome. Thank you, Andile. You just took it to another level. I'm so grateful. Irene, if you're listening, there's your answer. I hope that suffices. And for those that have questions, please keep the questions coming. We will answer them at the very end because we had lost Andile. We just want to utilize the time to get, I think, the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes that we have now to get more wisdom out of him. Andile, you were busy unpacking and telling us about that core, that thing that anchors you, and I think you were still unpacking that when we lost you.
Yes. So I don't know where you guys lost me, but I'll start from here. And I believe that when you yourself as a mentor are stagnant, you expire. And the worst thing you can do to your people is is you not refining yourself to the ability of your potential because you think you're arrogant by now because you have the answers. Because mentors also have they have a point where they reach where they think, no, I'm sorted now. I'm followed and people understand me and people listen to me. That's the arrogance. That's the devil that lives. It's a Luciferian intellect where
Mm,
you think you've arrived. So the biggest thing that you should continuously do is to refine yourself, is to
mm,
prioritize time for you, and to articulate yourself, and by finding people in places that think better than you,
mm,
and so that you don't falter, so that you don't lose momentum.
mm,
So I tell young people, and I tell this to myself, that I come from a place where, just let's say 13 years ago, I could not form a sentence articulately. I could not,
mm.
well, and I said, no one cares about your background story,
Sure.
but everyone else expects you to present yourself well, to be intellectually convincing, to be cogent. So that's why it means that you need to always be developing yourself and growing yourself, and read if you must. Don't think that the world will just accept you as you are. It will accept you as you grow to who you can be. And I think that is well undermined. Is like, work on developing yourself to the fullest of your abilities, and be articulate, and think. The world needs people that give themselves to their calling, because that is what we need. When Ronaldo is kicking that ball, he's given himself to his calling.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
When someone
Sure.
is conscientious and giving it all, that someone is in pursuit of their calling, and they're giving their
Mm,
calling.
that's right.
Imagine a world of people that do not listen to their calling.
Yeah, sure.
Imagine if we listen to the doubts that dwell within the darkness of our own minds.
Yo, 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 yo. Angela, we have 5 minutes. My goodness, we're just getting into the depths of the thing. And I'm like, why is time like this? I'm going to, just touch on a few things. I want you to just share a moment when, being vulnerable positively impacted your relationships or your personal growth. And I also just want you to please touch on, a few people that, you really admire for their authenticity, that you look up to, and then maybe just your last words.
Yeah. I think because we've touched on this positive masculinity, I would like to first um, uh, uh, um, share with you my 10, I would say 10 steps that I usually tell young people to follow. I don't know if I could do that.
Yes.
So the first one, and I'm reading because I've made a note here because this is my 10 steps, is embrace your authenticity. That's the first one.
Mm,
Be true to yourself, even if that means deviating from social norms.
sure.
The second one is let go of the need to be approved.
Mm,
You don't need validation from others to be yourself.
mm,
The third one is surround yourself with people that are supportive.
Sure.
Although you should not only surround yourself with people that accept you for who you are, but people that encourage you to be who you can be.
Sure.
Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with kindness and understanding, just as you should to a friend. You.
Wow.
And take small steps. That's number 5. You know, we always want, and especially in this generation, Titi, is that there's so much anxiety and pressures from social media that young people are romanced by the lies that they see online. And they don't know that success requires patience.
Yeah.
It requires faith.
Yeah.
It requires craft, mastery of craft,
Yeah. Sure.
you know? And then the fifth one is focus on your values. Align your actions and choices with your personal values, not social expectations.
Sure. Sure.
Seek role models, find mentors, role models, embody positive masculinity, and be authentic. Cultivate your emotional intelligence.
Mm.
Embrace your emotions and develop healthy ways to express and manage your emotions.
Sure.
Prioritize your mental health and
Mm.
take care of your well-being and seek help when it's needed.
Mm. 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 Mm.
And 10, remember, you're not alone.
Wow.
Many men have struggled. They've went through the same journey that you have.
Mm.
Find support and solidarity along the way.
Wow. 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 Yo, there you have it, listeners. There you have it. Those that are watching us this evening. Amazing, amazing 10 steps. Andile, we're gonna please ask you to send that to us so that we can share these nuggets with the listeners. I'm sure people were writing and they didn't hear some of it, and we just want to put it out there for them to follow so they can carry on with this wisdom that you've really imparted. Andile, time. I hate time. I love it and I hate it at the same time. Thank you so very much for this beautiful time we had with you and this wisdom that you've really shared with us tonight. I'm truly grateful with all my heart that in your busy schedule, you're able to make time for us. Guys, Andile is a young franchise owner, an inspiring leader. He's a business leader. He mentors young boys. He's a dad. He's a husband. And he's truly one of those people that when I look at, I see that positive masculinity coming out. Tender and gentle, vulnerable, but yet very strong. And it's rare to come across people like that. We just really want to appreciate you, Say, for this beautiful time that you've shared with us. For those that have questions, please put them in. We will try and answer them as and when we post this live. It will be live, I think, on all podcast platforms tomorrow, so please watch out for that. And if you still have questions, we'll try our best to make sure that we answer them, and we'll share again these 10 nuggets that Andile has shared with us. Embracing positive masculinity in this month of men's mental health month. I repeated myself somewhere, but we are here and we are honored to have had Andile share his nuggets and beautiful wisdom. My goodness, there's a lot that I've also taken here that I need to go and unlearn so that I can relearn and refine myself as one who inspires to lead and influence as well. Sir, thank you so very much for your time. God bless you immensely, bless your business, bless the work that you continue to do and that you're doing with young men. We need more of that. We need conferences. We need the safe spaces where they can come and share. Please, where can people get a hold of you? I'm sure there's one person who wants to pop you a message, a DM, and says, where's this man? Can he just tell me something? Just that one word. Can he see me like they saw you, so that I can be encouraged? Please, where can
Yeah,
they get a hold of you?
I'm fortunate enough to be the only Andile Mekeni out there, I think. So, like, I kid you not, there's no other Andile Mekeni.
Wow.
So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook.
Mhm.
And yeah, and eventually there will be a YouTube channel. It is coming. So one day, you'll definitely see me on the screens, making a difference and doing it for the
Amen.
right reasons, of course.
Amen. Andile, we need your voice and your wisdom, please. And we will also be inviting you soon when we do have our conferences to share on the other side, because we are tired of women. We need the balance so that we find this.
I
So
absolutely agree.
that's right. Thank you so much. Please stay on the line. To all our listeners, this is one of those exciting episodes of a Faith in Action podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening in. Until we meet again on the next episode, it's goodbye for now and take care. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Tinashe Mujera. I'm an author, I'm a marketplace professional, and I'm a woman of God. I am a representation of tested faith. I represent my healed wounds that left ugly scars. This is the Faith in Action podcast that has been created to help you find the journey to your true self through conversations and lessons shared.